Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. Good evening, Charles. How are you, sir?
I am alive in here.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, that's always a good note to because it would not be any fun dealing with a ghost.
Well, one caveat to the viewers, because I was asked, why are you always in the dark? That's because I'm behind the scenes.
Wow.
I'm like the Wizard of Oz. I'm behind the curtain.
And why you always in the dark? Is it the man behind the curtain?
I'm the man behind the curtain. I make all the smoke and fire go.
Okay. Gotcha. To keep us on the upside of everything. Well, that's good. How's everything in Atlanta?
Man, everything in Atlanta is okay, but back home in Chicago is looking crazy.
Really? What's up in Chicago?
They've had shootings. Yeah, they have.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
And I was going to talk about that because they had the same thing in Philly, and I was going to talk about we were going to talk about bad behavior a little bit later, but we'll bring that up about these shootings and things. This, you know what? It's just a hot mess, man. I'm telling you, it is such a hot mess going on. But tonight we got some good stuff. We got a young lady. Okay, she's not a special guest. I'm gonna hope to get her one day as a special guest on the show. But we got some videos from her tonight that. Politically speaking, this man right here in the purple is D-Bomb, not the bomb, but D-Bomb. All right. Everything this young lady is going to talk about, and we're going to, talk about her clips in between, that as we show them, he has already shared with you guys. Look at the camera. He's already had shared with us, share with you guys on many.
I need to know how I look.
On many occasions and stuff. So it's nice to have someone to be able to confirm that which you have spoken of on several occasions. And trying.
So what you're trying to say? He's not only sexy, he's smart. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm trying to tell you. Everybody should be so blessed. Everybody should be so blessed. All right. But anyway, so let's get our particulars out of the way, and then we will go ahead and dive in tonight. So first of all, we want to encourage you to like, and share, like to share, and share to like to share. All right. Please do that. We really need that from you guys. Trying to boost this level up and get it stronger out here in a major way, and that can only happen by you liking and sharing. Okay, on both platforms, on our Facebook platform, as well as the Instagram, and also on the X platform as well. So those of you that don't subscribe to the other platforms that are at this particular point in time, you do have the Instagram and I'm sorry, not Instagram yet, but X and YouTube. Why am I looking at YouTube today? YouTube and Facebook, to follow us on. All right, so. Supporting us financially, we would love to have some money coming in. All right, Cash App, Charles, you put that back up one more. There we go. Cash App is TTBTT Show, and our Venmo is The Truth Behind the Truth on Venmo. Just go to Venmo or either one of those particular accounts, and you can also just drop your coins in, not coins, but cash and dollars and all that good stuff. And if you want to send us an email at any given time, please do so, and it is at ttbttshow@gmail. All right. Love you guys for all your support. And let's go ahead and dig on in. Charles, we can throw up her first video, number one with her, and we'll let her introduce herself from there.
All righty.
Well, what a fabulous way to reintroduce myself. My name is Monty. I'm a former alt-right Christian fundamentalist. I went to church twice a week for 25 years straight, only private Christian schools, studied theology independently at the behest of my father. I graduated from Liberty University, and I studied theology in Israel. Y'all get so mad when I say the Bible shouldn't be in schools, not just because of the separation of church and state, but because it's not working in churches. You want to slap that into a classroom while you don't want to feed the kids that go to that classroom. You love talking about the 10 Commandments in a classroom when you don't feed the poor, which the Old Testament commands hundreds of times. You also don't follow the clothing restrictions or dietary restrictions. And when you get confronted with that, you backpedal and you say, oh, well, Jesus died on the cross for us, and so he abolished the old law. That's weird. Then why do you use it to demonize gay people? But since we're talking about Jesus, let's just see what Jesus actually said, because it's always the 10 Commandments and never the Beatitudes, I've noticed. And I wonder why that is. Could it be that the Beatitudes say, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Do you see that reflected in Americans, Christians culture right now, especially with our current administration? I don't. And Matthew 7, which I don't need to flip to because it's memorized, says, you will recognize a tree by its fruit. A good tree bears good fruit, and a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Now, what is that fruit? In Galatians, it says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Do you see that reflected in the Christian nationalist movement? Again, you love using the 10 commandments and you love Old Testament God until it comes to commands like adultery, which Jesus revisited. I'll give you a perfect example of how you like to use the Bible to your advantage and not be honest about it. Purity culture is pushed on women when Jesus only ever addressed lust in men. And he said that if you look at a woman lustfully in your heart, you have committed adultery and you have sinned against her. You've also committed adultery if you divorce your wife for any other reason than infidelity. And you know what else he said about that lust? He said, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it into the fire, because your lust is your problem. And you know what you guys do? That's not literal. So it's only literal when it's convenient. How fascinating. Slapping script.
All right.
But you know what is so sad about that type of situation is that we are going through a tragedy right now with in Texas. God rest those who have passed on or transitioned in that flash flood.
Right.
But I have I think really religion in that way have kind of really divided us, because how can you say, especially when it boils down to what we had to deal with in California with the fires,
right?
That was God sent. That was God sent.
Oh, okay.
But what has happened in Texas is something other than that. And it's just one of those situations where I'm always thinking to myself, why is it that when there's a tragedy, especially in places of either if it's LA or New Orleans, God sent that. He sent that. I see your point. He sent that through to tell the world that He is here. But in a situation that like Texas, that has not, that type of energy is not put into that as well. And I hate that has happened in Texas,
right.
But I hate that has happened here in California, New Orleans, North Carolina, some places. I hate those tragedies as well. But I don't advertise God and that type of hateful spirit. But I've heard people from Texas say, well, why is that people are coming down so hard on us? Why is that we are not together and trying as a society? Why can we not come together and hold each other, as a society to help us through all of this? But they be the main ones. Yeah. The main ones who will tell you to your face, well, God did that.
Right.
Because they have so much evil out there in those neck of the woods. Well, I hate to say it, but Texas has been doing a whole lot of evil.
Yes, it is.
It has been doing a whole lot of evil. And I wonder, do they believe that God sent that flash flood to wake them up?
Wow. Good point, Charles. Oh. Go ahead, Charles.
I ain't got no soapbox. I'm just, but I'm with Dollar. They utilize it when it's to their benefit, but they don't utilize it like it should be used. And as I repeat every time we talk about this, I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in the quality and the character of people above all else. So when I deal with society as a whole, I understand that they have free will to do what they do. So when they start telling me about I'm doing good because God made it for me, but when they're doing bad, they go, well, He don't see it in my favor at the moment. No, it's because of what you do. You make those choices. You put yourself in those situations, and you could do better. It ain't because he told you this ain't for you. No, it's because this is not where you're supposed to be because of the way you're acting and the things you do. We are what do you say? We are a result of our energy. What we do comes across to everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I completely agree with that. The thing that gets me is that I don't know whenever we're going to either wake up to that fact and accept that, and that we are each other's energy at the end of the day. You walk into a room with negative vibes, it's going to typically come negative. You walk in with a good spirit, a good vibe, it's going to come in good, And, it's so unfortunate that these kids were a product of misinformation, not them being misinformation, but misinformation in that area. The news has allegedly said that, that they had opportunities to put warnings up there, horns and things to let them know about the flood, but they chose not to do it.
Well,
You know?
that spot was vacant for some months.
Right.
And that was because the person who ran that meteorologist got a early, what they call Trump retirement plan.
Oh, well, okay, there we go.
And the fact is that that spot has been cut out of the budget in Texas.
Wow. So as a result, as we can see, and again, not sparing the loss of life. I mean, I can just only imagine what the parents are going through, with their, the fact that their child is not going to be able to come back to them, anymore at this point because of what has happened, and sometimes it takes certain tragedies to bring a wake up call. At the end of the day, I mean,
but you got to recall this: when things were going wrong when Biden was president, let's blame Biden all day and all night. But then come time when a situation happened underneath your watch, well, we can't control disasters.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control disasters. So what we'll do, we won't send FEMA in, but we'll send federal support, and the states will do something about it. I would vote for Joe Biden if he shot Trump on the face. I can't. But that right there, but that has always been the same. If it didn't happen under Trump, the blame was on Biden, Obama, and all of this happened because of Obama or Biden. Right. But my thing is, it has now happened because of Trump, because of the energy. Right. He has put out so much bad energy into the universe that all of this stuff is now happening.
Right, absolutely. And then I'm going to say carefully with his followers and the understanding of things. It's like, you grabbed onto that same energy. And now it's the result of what you put out there. This negative, I mean, this discord for people and hating on people and all this other stuff. It's sad. It's a very, very sad state of affair.
And children
right, because of that. I mean,
at a Christian camp. They all were at a Christian camp. And, the saddest thing about it is, yes, the warning did not come where the warning should have been. And the fact that Governor Abbott is going to use this analogy of the fact that because he felt like we made a mistake, but we are not about pointing fingers.
Oh my God,
we're not about pointing fingers because we are winners in this. We are the winners because he used the football terminology as the analogy to say to tell people that if you're on a winning team, you don't have time to be pointing fingers and blaming people. You should have the the wherewithal to say what we're gonna do better about this. Well, I hope he did say that about the grid station that they got. Did they get a better grid station?
I don't know.
For Texas,
I've been so outdone with Abba Dabba Dabbit. I don't,
A better grid station would have helped them. Would have sufficed that. Yeah.
The man need to put him on a downslope on that chair here and let him keep rolling.
You can drop a football all day, but to have people lose their lives.
Yeah, well,
that's a whole nother story, Governor. I mean, that's nothing about football. That's about people.
One of the things is that he thought that he was going to get some sort of a position in Trump's administration by doing what he did during the election period. But that's a whole other conversation. We can't get into that part. But back to our I'm gonna call her our special guest in terms of lining up the conversation of where spirituality fits in and how I'm gonna say we all at some point have been bamboozled. Okay, I mean seriously, bamboozled, but we don't want to choose that because everybody know everything about scripture. Okay, anyway, we're gonna go on number 2 about her. This is something that the wonderful co-leader of this show has mentioned to you guys on several occasions, and no one ever paid attention, and it's the result of where we are right now. Go ahead with number 2, Charles. We can get it. All right, get it.
In 1923, Adolf Hitler led a coup against the German government that ended up being called the Beer Hall Putsch. He was tried and convicted for this, became a felon, which he claimed was a political move from the Socialist Democrats, and he started a campaign about how he was for the working German and how educators were poisoning German minds against Germany and that he was going to make Germany great.
Uh-oh, what happened?
They might have cut off.
In 1923, Adolf Hitler led a coup against the German government that ended up being called the Beer Hall Putsch. He was tried and convicted for this, became a felon, which he claimed was a political move from the Socialist Democrats, and he started a campaign about how he was for the working German and how educators were poisoning German minds against Germany and that he was going to make Germany great again. And he became chancellor on January 30th of 1933. He promptly forgave all the people who participated in his Beer Hall Putsch, giving them medals of honor, and then started prosecuting, persecuting, and killing all of the law enforcement who resisted his coup. By April 7th of 1933, he passed what was called the Law for the Restoration of Public Service, which rolled back work protections, allowing all public service to discriminate against women and people of color, and only people who were of Aryan descent who pledged loyalty to Hitler could work in public service. Now, he was able to control the government by making oligarchs part of his head of government, and he demonized minorities, saying it's us versus them. He chose the Jews because they were a relatively small minority, and the LGBTQ community, which was thriving in Germany in the 1920s, include having the first trans surgical clinic that the Nazis burned to the ground. They also banned and burned any books that they considered degenerative or immoral, which just means that they acknowledged that gay people and trans people are real and talked about their experiences. They also burned and canceled any book that discussed classism. Within the first year, he was able to roll back civil liberties basically entirely. And because he felt that manhood was under attack from these independent German women, protections for women were rolled back in the public sphere, especially reproductive rights, and doctors who administered abortions could get the death penalty. Women were told your life is your country, your family, and your home. And very shortly after that, laws were passed to restrict women to simply life in the home, because obviously men don't want to compete against women in the public sphere. And members of the LGBTQ community, in addition to being demonized the same way that the Jews were packed up and shipped to concentration camps, especially gay men, since it was thought that lesbians could be forced to reproduce. And I say all that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So go ahead. You take this one. You take this one. I mean, I just love the fact of how she has really articulated what you have said on numerous occasions on The Truth Behind the Truth, and have educated our audience about this situation. The correlation of what she is saying is your president, okay, and what you have been doing with your president. Not all you guys that follow us, but those that are out there, and hopefully they will come across this, in their passing throughs or whatever. But anyway, go ahead. What's your point?
Well, I mean, it's telling that, Trump had picked up Mein Kampf, and he has taken on the practices of his German uncle, Uncle Adolf. Uh-huh. And let's not forget, Trump is German. He is a German American. And to be honest with you, when it boils down to Trump has always have had these ideas, and he ain't the only one who has had these ideas. But going back to Adolf Hitler, how could you have not seen for what it is? I mean, seeing Project 2025, the manifesto, for what it really was, is a conservative ideology that has taken on what Hitler had wanted for Germany. Uh-huh. And I always have to remind people, most dictatorships come from a conservative ideology, right? A right-wing ideology. Right. Mostly Hitler is doing what Trump is doing right now. He has not stolen, but he has used up all of the treasury, all of the money to do what he thinks is best for this country. Build Alligator Alcatraz, make military parades. What Hitler did in Germany with the money, he built the Autobahn. Mm-hmm. He knew that Germany didn't even have the money. They didn't have the resources. So what did Hitler think Germany needed in order to rebuild their money and their resources? They needed war.
Sound familiar?
They needed war. They needed more land.
Sound familiar?
And Hitler felt that in order for the Germans to thrive was to have more babies. So he did roll back all full autonomy for women in Germany, because he felt like the German race needed more children for his master race.
Wow, sound familiar?
So yeah, at time, and those women who were not on board with any of the ideology that he had, they were sterilized, along with gay and lesbian and trans community of that time. They were all sterilized. Wow. They were anybody who was either had anxiety or depression or had an outburst of craziness, they were sterilized.
I'm sorry to cut you. I like the point. Thank you for that, Charles, for putting that. The Third Reich. Please take it. I mean, you guys, if you want to know what's going on, get the book. All right, listen to the documentary on YouTube about the Third Reich.
Yeah,
It explains
really
it all.
good.
The part that I liked about what she said was mentioning about how he would hold on to lesbians because they could be an incubus.
Oh yeah.
I was like, no, that was surprising to me that that he would allow that situation for them, but yet and still he thought that they could be an incubus. Basically, that's what it boils down to. Incubus meaning that they can be impregnated and carry babies. And that what that reminds me of? It reminds me of what's that? The movie was it not was it Predator? Was it Predator? The one that or Alien that's the one where the things came over and got on people's faces and impregnated them.
Okay. Yeah.
What Alien kind of reminds me of that. I mean, at the end of the day. So this alien, of course,
Well, the body snatchers.
Yeah, exactly. That too. And break. So it's unfortunate that that this type of situation has been a part of what is merging itself into the American culture, and that is so sad. By this,
what he took from the American culture. See, that's what people did not understand. That Hitler, he utilized what he had learned that the United States was doing with their policy when it boiled down to race and eugenics, and he was putting it.
Wow.
He was putting it towards what they were doing over in Germany.
Y'all listening to this? Go ahead, keep going.
Well, I mean, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Yeah, because he had already said that the United States was the practice ground for what he wanted for Germany. But the thing that killed, the only negative thing that he had against the Americans was they mixed within the degenerate races, which he was talking about blacks and whites.
Well, okay.
People. He said that one thing that the Americans did not do that he did not respect was mixed with degenerates.
See that's a whole other deep conversation.
Because he believed that all races should be, the Aryan race should be pure. The European race should be pure at all costs.
Okay.
But the saddest thing about that is that when the Americans went over there and invaded Germany, those people who went over there and invaded Germany and came back to the U.S., and I'm just saying this, they came back and still kept on with the apartheid of a community down south. You're talking about those southern white GIs who went over into Europe and invaded Nazi Germany and had the gall to tell those Germans that they weren't free and that his policies were immoral. But and I'm just saying, they went back down south. That man that killed Emmett Till, those men were ex-GIs.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, because that can open a whole other story.
I know, right?
But that how sequentially that carries over to what we see now in the behavior of this United States and this part of the world, what we're experiencing through this clown that's in office. Charles, you want to say something real quick?
I just want to add a little caveat to that. Isn't it amazing that in all these times, it's always someone who's alien to the group that tries to be the leader?
Wow.
Hitler was not a German.
Wow.
He was an Australian. What do you call it?
South Africa?
No, he wasn't. Hitler was a he wasn't of German origin. Put it that way.
He was Austrian.
Austrian. There you go. He was Austrian. And then look at Donald Trump. He's not a Christian, but yet he's leading the Christian nation in their purpose. It's always somebody who's not part of that community that's leading them somewhere they shouldn't be.
Well, of course, you'll have understanding and compassion if you were in the right place. But when you're out with power and greed, you can't expect that to happen. But anyway, this could get going a little further. We're going to move on to our next wonderful clip with her. I think it's number 3. She's going to define a little bit more. We'll talk about that a little bit.
All right, give me a hot second.
You got her? Okay.
I got it now.
So Donald Trump signed an executive order to the Smithsonian to restore truth and sanity to American history. Let me fundamentalists translate this for you. They're going to claim that slavery wasn't a big deal and it ended all racism in the United States. The civil rights movement wasn't needed. Feminism hurt women. Genocide against Native Americans never happened. And America is exceptional in every single way. And all of the white men who came over here and murdered everyone were the most handsomest, godliest men ever. And America has been blessed because Jesus. So here's what you need to do. History is going to disappear in public spaces. Anything that does not paint America as this exceptional, wonderful, beautiful, not racist at all place is going to disappear. You're going to need some history books in your house, and here's where we're going to start. A People's History of the United States. The True History of the United States. And the Humanity Archive. Make sure you have the information, because if you cannot access information, you cannot combat propaganda, and you cannot tell when anyone is lying. Added bonus, the Reich series by Richard J. Evans, 1, 2, and 3. If you want to know what's going on right now, it's right here, because they also just put a freeze on all libraries. This includes their fundings, their workers. They are going to go through libraries and gut them for all this information. And then my intuition is saying that they're going to defund it and shut down libraries, because they cannot deal with an educated population. They won't win. And if you cannot refute their lies, propaganda wins.
Nation of Thinkers, non-nation of thinkers.
You might as well put the quote back up, because see my thing is this. It's very telling, because why is it fearful to know the truth? What are you hiding?
Right.
And you know what? Why I'm not surprised.
Right.
I grew up around this type of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the state of Alabama, where the history books will tell you one thing, and you go home and you learn another.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It makes the Civil War to those down south was not even about the situation of slavery. It was about the situation of making sure that they were fighting for what they believed freedom was for them, but not even putting within the story of how rich it was for the South to have a slave system, because the slaves made up so much of the population down south and made up so much of the revenue and money that they needed to keep the South going, that in reality, to some of those white Southerners, why not fight a war? We need to maintain our way of life. Right. But the saddest thing right now is that you now have a bunch of black people, white agents. They are white agents for racism, for those people who want to push this narrative out on black people. They need black faces. Right. But tell you, slavery wasn't all that. Right. Slavery wasn't all that. Yes, it was all that. Right.
It was Job Corps. It was early Job Corps. It was early Job Corps.
Yeah. Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Early Job Corps. Okay.
And it got us to loving Jesus, right? If it wasn't for slavery, we wouldn't know the love of white Jesus, basically. Yeah,
exactly.
Basically.
Well, I mean, a great analogy on this, on her points. I'm glad we were able to bring this to the point. I really, really hope that you guys are really honestly paying attention to what's going on here. And again, solidifying the information that is out there that's so important. Because we've said it. She's not saying anything any more than what we've already said on the show. But this is just a way of backing up with more documentation, so that if you have a conversation about it, you will be able to know that, hey, I got the facts. But I got the facts first from where? The truth behind the truth. Go ahead.
But one thing I would implement, what Hitler did to keep the Germans more distracted than what was going on behind the scenes, or what might have been going on in front of them too, was with entertainment, and it was with socialists. How the conservatives talk about, we don't believe in socialism. Right. Well, Hitler did. Right. Hitler believed in socialism. Hitler believed that all German workers should have the same, when it boiled down to vacationings and health care and all that stuff. So he utilized that idea of making sure that he had a classless society, that every German who was either rich, poor, middle class, they were still of the same situation. Now here is a different situation within these United States, because capitalism rules everything. So people love to feel like they are above somebody when it boils down to this society. But it's just Trump is also doing the same thing when it boils down to this Epstein file, this Epstein this and Epstein that, trying to find some entertainment value to distract us from what is really going on.
But we're so distracted about so much. I mean, as we say, from week to week, we're distracted by Jay-Z, we're distracted by Rihanna, we're distracted by Beyonce, we're distracted by Cardi, we're distracted by all of that, in and of itself. So how can we ever get on track as to what we need to do as to bonding together as a group of people to move forward in society to reclaim what we said we want to reclaim? We're not, not to get in a conversation about reparations, but we ain't even ready for reparations. I'm gonna tell you, we're not ready. You know what I mean? We're not ready for that, and I think that because where the slow process of it coming, a lot of people can debate me on that. The slow process of it coming is because we're not ready. We're not ready, even for the fact that the appreciating point of that, of how the ancestors sacrificed and died for this country and developing and building this country that reparations comes from. We don't even honor them enough. We don't honor them with our exception, our behaviors. We don't. We have drive-by shootings. Is that honoring a man or a woman that hung from a tree? As I've said all the time. I mean, is it that we exploit ourselves so highly? Are we honoring them by that way? We got a guy that's on trial. Well, not on trial anymore, but will be sentenced for illicit sexual behaviors. Now, this is not about telling somebody what they need to do. But then again, if your shit is that deep, you need to leave something alone. You need to check something going on in your mind that ain't right. Okay, at the end of the day, I'm just gonna say it's something ain't right there. And we don't need to know about that. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't need to know what you do when you close your door. Okay. But if you're closing your door, doing all the wrong things, or putting women in uncompromising positions and paying people to have, that's way off. That is so way off in terms of my point about us finding a nucleus, because you know what? That takes precedence over you loving your brother. Your sexual preference takes preference over your brother. You can't even love your brother, because if you're not, you can't. You got to do a side eye if you think you're gay, or if she a lesbian, or if they was a pan and possibly pansexual, and everybody wants to know what kind of sexual behaviors you get into. But you got people dying on the streets every day. But anyway, we got to move on. All right, so this is another point. We'll look with it. Charles is going to be the brother point number one. This gentleman is just, articulating basically what you just said, what we've all said again, but from another stronger point. So go ahead and give it. You got it.
It is past time we begin naming out loud the billionaires quietly pulling the strings.
Okay, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Donald Trump, not out of praise, but out of truth. Because while you rip through every part of this government, tearing down justice, equality, and fairness under the...
It is past time we begin naming out loud the billionaires quietly pulling the strings at every level.
Okay, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Donald Trump, not out of praise, but out of truth. Because while you rip through every part of this government, tearing down justice...
No, Charles, leave that one up. That was the one.
Okay, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Donald Trump, not out of praise, but out of truth. Because while you rip through every part of this government, tearing down justice, equality, and fairness under the fake excuse of fighting DEI fraud, what you're really doing is confirming what black folks have been saying for generations. America was built on racism, fueled by fear and sustained by white supremacy. You've exposed it all. The masks are off. The polite racism, the fake allyship, the colorblind lies, it's all gone. Now we see it raw and unfiltered. You're not just targeting policy, you're targeting people. Black people, brown people, marginalized communities. And the wild part, we make up the smallest portion of this country, yet somehow we are the biggest threat to the lie that white supremacy built. That should tell you everything. You're afraid not of violence, not of replacement, but of the power we hold even when we have nothing. You see the way our culture, our brilliance, our resilience, our excellence continues to shape this country, even when it tries to erase us. Donald Trump is just the loudest version of a system that's always been in place. He is the living, breathing proof that this country was never designed with us in mind. And yet, we continue to define it. So thank you, Donald, for exposing what so many tried to deny, for showing the world that the fear of black greatness is real, for proving that racism isn't in our imagination, it's in the fabric of this nation. And to my people, we don't have to fight to prove our worth. He's doing that for us. All we have to do is stand firm, stay awake, and know that the truth is finally louder than the lie. We are not broken. We are not the problem. We are the evidence of the power that this country can contain. Let that truth ring louder than its hate.
To be honest with you, right now, that the gaslighting on X is more of black fatigue. When you bring up stuff like that, especially when it boils down to a mixed crowd, oh well, we're going white, and I hate to say it, but white folks say we're going through black fatigue. But nobody ever takes into consideration how white fatigue we've been for so long.
Wow.
You know, and it's so sad that, you know, and as black folk, you know, with everything that's been going on, we still haven't found the answer of a cultural coded community.
Uh-huh.
I always say we need always a code to stand by, but we still, to this day, we still haven't stood firm with each other about what is needed.
I don't think we're honestly going to ever get back to that point.
Well,
you know, code because
we had it before.
Well, yeah,
we had no other choice but to have a cultural coded community because we were forced into some form of segregation, and we did not do well. Let's just say this: we had no other choice but to deal with each other. But I feel like after integration came through, that all went to the wayside because you had a few of those who just didn't see the need of keeping up certain traditions or certain things that we were so used to having. They didn't want to keep them up, like our communities, like the things that we hold dear culturally. You see them eroded year after year. Things like, you know, it's just certain things that I see. You know, they were talking about the family reunions and all that stuff. Certain things that we hope they're now being eroded because we see no need of having those things.
Well, there's no sense of family anymore.
There's no sense of family. There's no sense of community. There's no sense of anything. Right. So, you know, I hate to say it, until black folks stand firm in the cultural code that we need, we can always deal with what we have to deal with. But I hate to say it, but, you know, with Trump being in office, it's very telling, like he says, very telling that the passive aggressiveness of racism that we have had to deal with is now in our faces, to the point that we always knew it never went away.
Right.
But the fact is that it has always been here. Nobody believed us. That's the part that makes me laugh, that nobody believed us until all of a sudden it has came to their doorstep.
Well, you know, here's one point, and we're going to move on from that. I was just thinking as you were mentioning all that you were, and you mentioned about a code. All right. So is it not par for the core to establish that, okay, let's just use the hip hop community for the beneficial factor versus the non-beneficial factor, which we see more of the non-beneficial versus the beneficial. Okay. Why is it that not in the music that we cannot subliminally put a code that speaks to the heart of the people of color? Good question. Good solution. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about speaking of, why is it? Because here's the thing. Now, if you want to go back in time, all right, one of the things that on plantations, they had drums. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they sent messages to each other by what? Those drums. They played those drums, you know, and the slave owner thought they were, you know, of course they were dancing and whatever, but those drums were giving signals and symbols to what the next move or properly trying to plan.
Our singing was that too.
Well, that was too, yeah. So it was used in a manner of spreading a message. Now, some of the things I didn't have to be careful because it's too downtrodden, but that's just me. But But the point is that I'm making is that we have a whole culture that can speak to this that is speaking to this next generation that's coming forward, in that. Why are we not using that as a platform? Why are they not seeking to do it? And I know, Charles, you could probably say because they don't know and they're not educated. Well, somebody got to start educating. Okay, at the end of the day,
You got to start somewhere.
Huh?
So you have to start somewhere.
Absolutely, but they're again, like I started out earlier. We're more concerned about licking and slicking and sliding and sticking, okay, versus to sticking to a plan on educating your community of elevation. Period. But go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, well, I put it to you this way: no matter what you do, they still have a choice. They have to accept it.
Yes,
No matter how much you do, you can't make them do anything. They have to choose to.
They don't see a need, and that's the sad part about it. They don't see a need right now. They don't see a need. The need is so far beyond what this conversation that we're having right now about this is just mind blowing. They don't see a need. I think some of them, if they got shot today, which was going to lead into the next, it wouldn't matter. It really would matter because of the framework that has infiltrated the community. The value of life was not there anymore. We don't care what the situation of we see somebody getting shot or brutality or whatever. Nobody's stepping up. I'm gonna say the last time that probably that we were going to see something like that, and because of the news media got on board, was George Floyd. Okay, but let's say there's a lot of George Floyds that are going on each and every day in these communities, and we're standing by, twirling our thumbs, either twirling our thumbs or ducking and saying, I ain't gonna get involved, child. I gotta worry about my weed. I ain't gonna get my hair messed up. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna get my fingernails messed up. All right, they gonna come to my house. All right, I'm being emphasis, but it is the trend that we exist in that point, which is crude to my point. Right here in Philly, they're making a transition that just the other day. Here we go with the community. I'll get it for you, Joe. This community right here.
Klan when you have this.
Well, but my point exactly.
But who needs the Klan when you have this? But it's so sad that I don't know if it ever took a genre of music to make people get a gun. But then on top of that,
it sure as hell influenced it. I can tell you that.
Influenced it. But my thing is, I don't understand why is it still necessary to have to do that.
Because
why is
it
necessary?
They're not educated. They are not educated. And I agree with y'all to the point that people do what they want to do and see what they want to do. But there's a lack of education, period. And I don't necessarily mean from the school. There's a lack of communication. There's a lack of conversation in the community. Charles and I were talking about this week before last about what goes on in barbershops. He goes to one that does bring a little bit more light to the African American conversation. Yeah. But then you got a whole host of them. His one to probably another 4 that's in there talking about sex with women, what they were doing, and sports. That's all they talk about.
You have streamings right now that are doing that. We talked about. I always mention DDG because he has his own streaming show. But who was the other guy you was talking about?
Casanat.
These young personalities, these young streamers have nothing enlightening to say about nothing. Everything is a big game on these streaming services. It's so misogynistic, it's at times homophobic, it's at times it's useless.
Yeah.
Useless moments where if you have a platform like that and you know how to better the community through information, why not utilize that platform to get people to understand that we at this time in our lives need to now be more aware of what's going on politically in our lives. And that's where I feel like at the end of the day, you have a lot of the Black youth who are watching these people in front of a computer like we are doing. We're having a conversation.
Right.
But then on top of that, the conversation is useless conversation. You even had useless conversation.
You mean ours? Or
theirs. I'm sorry, but if their conversation is the streamers' conversation is useless.
Right, absolutely.
You have had celebrities on these platforms, solidifying their moment in these situations, solidifying the platforms of these people. And you know what? Because Kevin Hart, because Nicki Minaj, because of these folks have walked on there and said, well, y'all should support, you should watch. Even they were at the BET Awards this year. The fact is that they are solidified in this uselessness that we're not having to put up with. Now, hey, I don't care who you support. If you put your money behind these folks, fine. That's your right. That's your money. That's your power. That's what you invest in, useless information. But to be honest with you, it's not helping you get that rent paid, and it's not helping you with your health care, and it's not helping you get your kids through too, because come time when school starts, I don't know if there's going to be any form of public education. It's going to be for-profit education. Yeah, well. And I don't know how these parents are going to afford sending their kids to a better school or getting a better education. Right. But hey, to each his own. The lottery, that's right. The lottery, you're right. Yep. They've been doing that in Georgia for so long anyway. Yep. They've been doing that in the state of Georgia for so long.
Every state that has lotteries is for that, but
But that's
I'm sure that's going to be tapped into at some point as well.
That's right.
But like you said, I mean, on the political level, which is kind of a great transition into our next point. I mean, just the chaotic mess that is consistently going on. One thing that we did before we make that shift, we really wanted to address the immigration situation. And a conversation that we had about that. Watching these deportations of these individuals and things, I have one question, basically. I mean, it can open up many doors and conversations about it, but why were you not getting yourself taken care of? You've been in this country for 10, 15, 20, some people 30 years and have not gotten their citizenship. I don't understand.
Well, let me attest to that, because that is not necessarily their fault. That's why they have to fix the immigration system. It's not doing what it should be doing. The people are going to meetings once, twice a year just to say, I'm still not doing no dirt. But that's 10, 15 years into the game. That's not their fault. That's the system's fault. They had a comprehensive immigration plan before Trump got in office with Biden. Everybody agreed on it. Trump said, don't agree on it. I like to fix this when I get in office. And they axed it. They got rid of it. And it addressed everything from the judges to the patrol to the litigation system, everything. And they chopped it just so Trump could be in office, and look at what he did.
But there has always been a motive before Trump not to get this stuff together. You know what's so sad about the fact that I always felt like this was a playbook from the conservatives not to get on board with the Democrats, because the Democrats played into the conservative handbook anyway. They did not call these people out the way the Republicans have been calling them out. And I hate to say this too, but the Democrats, they never know how to play this game dirty. They still are not playing this game. There is no commercials. The Republicans have commercials up and down the airways. But I have not seen not one Democrat, and hey, put in the comments and prove me wrong. But the Democrats, they do not have commercials. They don't have platforms other than these podcasts like us at times. And you have Roland Martin, you have, Joy and Reed, Lemon. All of these podcasts are doing that. But the DNC is not doing what is necessary to call these people out. And they've been doing it since Bush. Right. They've been playing this game since Bush. And I hate to say it, yes, there was a motive not to fix this problem, because they knew that they didn't want these people to become citizens of this country. They didn't want, even as far back as 2000, I can recall that you had people coming in on work visas, working on these farms, working in these fast food restaurants, but they were never going to be guaranteed citizenship, because these folks knew there was an expiration date to this, and it needed a Trump to utilize to get
enforce
this
it.
to enforce this expiration date. So I always believe, the system was broken, but it was broken for a reason. And I wish Americans would do a little bit more history when it boiled down to our quota system. There was only supposed to be a certain amount of immigrants in this country through our quota system. They were never supposed to be a lot of brown and brown immigrants coming through and living here, because there was supposed to be a certain amount of people other than white, because let's just call a spade what it is. This was supposed to be a European white, lily white country. It was never supposed to be a whole lot of other people here. So I always felt like, the conservatives knew what they were doing when they were stalling the immigration situation when it boiled through Congress and Senate. They knew what they were doing. They knew
but that's a two-sided coin. You got to remember, and this is why I buck back. That system was corrected. That plan they went through, I read it. It enforced and did everything it needed to be. True, Trump can't be blamed, but he is to blame. He told them not to vote for it. They even got in there and participated. So one of the rare times they actually sat down, worked as a group, and put together a plan that would actually work. It actually, if you read it, go back and read it, you'll say, damn, this would have fixed everything. But it was the Trump influence that said, do not pass that bill. And they went, okay, even though we signed it and we all agreed on it, we're not going to do it. And that's where it broke habit. And then the other part I got to say,
they're not going to do it underneath an Obama presidency. Now, they could have gotten it done during Obama or doing whatever presidency, but they were never going to. See, that's the thing about Trump. Trump wants credit for every damn thing.
That's true. But you also got to remember, it's just as many Australians, Germans, and Russians that are here without no visas. We're not talking about them folks. So we keep talking about what we don't do.
You want to know why?
Yeah, there's a lot of
that. They're not this. We got to remind ourselves they ain't this, they are this. So why would we talk about Europeans, Eastern Europeans, Western Europeans? Why should we talk about them, even if they're here with no papers?
Hey, the law's the law. According to them, everybody has to follow the law. If you follow the law, that includes them.
Conveniently follow the
law. His wife.
Oh, they're on her. They own her.
His wife is here.
They are.
And to be honest with you, if that was the case, they should all self-support.
His son is an anchor baby. So is his kids. His other kids, they're all anchor babies. Every woman he's married has been an immigrant. So they should be the first ones on the list then.
Absolutely. Should be.
Now think about it. If Trump was convicted on 34 felonies and he's married to a woman who's an immigrant, shouldn't her card be pulled?
I would say so.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how that.
Different. If it ain't this, it ain't right. Well, it's always been that way. It has always been that way. I ain't never changed. That has never changed. If it ain't white, it ain't right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and I don't care who gets offended about it. It's just that's the way it has always been in this country. And it's just the saddest thing about it is that we're still always asking this question of why is this and why is that. It's just that's the way the status quo has always worked.
This is true. This is so true. Well, good. I wish we could solve it all in this conversation, right here. One of the things about this, and we're going to move on from the immigration situation, but, we unfortunately, the news media always tends to highlight stupidity of people of color, whatever. But this particular person of color, he was one of those from another area of the world, I'll put it that way, and his behavior. And I just wanted to pull something about showing stupidity and behavior and over something very stupid of a compliment. Okay, and how something got really. I got you, Charles, on a stupid compliment.
Looking beautiful. You just said out of your own mouth what you said to her. How are you gonna tell me? We didn't say something. No, you said she is beautiful. Yes or no? I said you're looking so beautiful. Why the fuck would you say that? I'm sorry for that because we just. You please get this.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
Well, just
your wife comes to the store.
Yeah, but
wants to pick up a freaking sandwich.
Yeah, but
is she crazy?
Yeah.
that she sits through these fucking compliments, these fucking
I know.
creeps.
Look, they made
Why?
they made a mistake.
This is not your fucking country.
Yeah.
This is not India or something, dude. You're in the fucking States.
I understand you're upset.
Yeah,
And
don't-
I understand what you're talking
Right.
about. It is a generational thing.
Right.
In his generation, that would have been okay.
No, it
Yeah,
would
but yeah,
not
well,
have been
well, people-
okay.
They would have took it better.
Yeah,
than-
people-
It would have not been okay.
Yeah.
It is never okay
This-
And I
to
understand
speak to a woman you
Yeah.
do not know and talk about her looks.
Listen.
There's a
listen.
difference in class.
Listen.
There's a difference in respect. There's no difference in generation.
Listen, you made your point, man. They've learned a lesson. They won't do it again.
I want
They learned a
action
lesson.
against them. I'm sorry, but this is not okay.
Listen.
Really, I was saying he was taking in some other way. We didn't say like that.
The thing is, you just do not freaking say it.
Yeah, but they won't do it again.
He immediately
Okay,
said it's unprofessional.
you got to have some
I just
grace.
left that.
I do.
Okay.
I promise.
Okay.
Like, I'm not a
Yeah.
crazy person.
No,
this
no.
is like
Yeah.
insane to me.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. You
Okay.
know what pisses me
Let-
off about
let
this
me make my
whole
point again,
scenario
bro.
of this?
Let me-
Let me make this, and I'm gonna let you make your point. My thing is this. This is why I always tell people, working in public sector jobs like this, or customer service jobs like this, is not for the weary, and it's not for the faint at heart. You deal with situations like this because of the fact of culture. You got
Culture?
yeah, these people they come.
Yeah.
These people they come to your business.
Well, yeah, okay.
With this situation,
Mindset.
this mindset
Yeah,
that you know nothing about.
Uh-huh.
Now, yes, if she came and bought a sandwich and they complimented her, what was the problem? But then it is a problem with certain coaches to talk to somebody's wife like this. But how the hell do you know?
Right.
How do you know? But then on top of that, that's why I always use this in situations like this.
See,
Thank God they weren't all black.
But
Thank God they weren't all black.
First and foremost, see that
Thank God.
that behavior of
Thank God.
that whatever. Okay, first of all, first of all, you're in another country. You're not in Israel. I'm assuming he was Israeli.
No, he wasn't no Israel.
Or Indian or Pakistani or whatever he was. You know, at the end of the day, this type of shit is just unreal. Okay, and fortunately, it wasn't me on the other side of the counter, because I'd have told him to get your ass out my store and take your damn wife with you. Because see, you got a problem with somebody telling you. First of all, a proud man would have stuck his chest out and said, "You know what? Thank you. My wife is beautiful." But this fool think about somebody else is trying to come on to his wife. He got a problem somewhere else in his life because he's insecure. Okay, and his insecurities, he's pushing it off on those three guys. Somebody should have beat his ass as he's walking out the door. That's just simple, plain and simple.
Been of the Islamic faith.
I don't give a damn. That ain't got nothing to do with them people behind the counter. He could have been Islam. I mean, they the ones got the women covered up in burqas and cheek cloths and can't even.
That's their insecurities. Yeah, that's their
insecurities. That's their insecurity. That's their faith and their insecurities. You know, and she peeking into a piece of cloth. You know.
Thank God they weren't all black staff, because I know one thing, we ain't a people that would take that just standing there.
No.
You know, one thing I would say, to be honest with you, he was lucky in that because it was at a Popeyes joint.
Yeah.
You know, they've been catching like the Waffle House, Popeyes been throwing hands lately. They've been throwing some hands at a Popeyes. I don't know if it's just the chicken. I don't know if it's the sandwiches. I don't know if it's the spice.
Hey, have you seen it? Have you seen the movie Cloning Tyrone? It's in the chicken and the fries.
Chicken and the fries.
Well, they said there's something in the chicken that makes us go crazy.
It is. They won't tell you what those 5 ingredients are either at Chick-fil-A. They will not tell you, and neither will Popeyes.
Yeah, I know.
But chicken?
Yeah.
You remember when them chicken sandwiches were going crazy, and them folks went in there just fighting and carrying on? It was almost like that Boondocks episode. Remember they went and got the chicken, and the folks were actually rioting and going crazy in the town.
Yeah. Cloning Tyrone, the whole town was talking about their place. They didn't want the place there. Then they opened up and they tasted chicken. Now the place is packed. Everybody can't get out and get enough of it.
Yeah, they get in there.
You gotta be lucky that whole entire store wasn't black, especially in somebody's ghetto. You talking about standing there and doing all of that? He would have to rethink his thoughts and rethink his words.
Right.
He thought because he's bigger than all them, he can. But see, that don't work with a lot of black dudes. They'd be like,
No,
big
that
and
don't
all.
work with
That
black
ain't gonna
folks,
be it.
period.
That's not
If
my
we
way.
don't fight, we have more lip than anybody else. That's why they don't like us in these types of environments. You know,
he would
they
have
hate
not
us.
made it out of their life. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, as we bring it to a close, like we always want to celebrate greatness. Okay, celebrate greatness in the culture, but that culture has to transcend to everybody else that we have to come in contact with each and every day of our lives. You know, and I wanted to highlight and celebrate this man that's on the move. You know, and Mayor Brandon Scott. Brandon is doing a lot. You know, I mean, he's really, really just focused. He wants to be an example of great Black excellence. You know, and even though we did show right there in his his area, the mass shooting as they're referring it to it, but I'm sure he's already on it. You know,
No, that didn't happen in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That didn't happen He's in Baltimore.
He's in Baltimore. I'm sorry.
That didn't happen. I'm so sorry, but that happened.
Sorry about that.
But he is not the mayor of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think there's a woman. Is it a Black woman that's the mayor of Philadelphia?
Yes.
They're going through a strike in Philadelphia right now. A civil servant fight. They with the trash people.
Right.
You know, and but I would give this man credit. Baltimore, they said their crime has went down since he's been been mayor.
Yeah.
So I would give him a lot of credit for that. But you know, he's having to deal with a lot of people because of the fact that he's mayor. You know, I think like they do in every chocolate city within these United States, they pull back money. And the state pulled back money to underfund everything within any chocolate city within these United States. They have did it in Birmingham, Tuskegee, all of these places. You go rolling into any chocolate city, you notice that there's a lot of rundown places, a lot of businesses that are out. They're trying to do that with Baltimore with him.
Right.
But thank God he has a Black governor over Maryland, right?
Governor Westmoreland.
That's right. He better be happy he has that type of support.
Yeah, but he's doing a fantastic job too.
Because it could be like Kemp in Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be like that too.
Yeah, that certainly is true. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
But anyway, so yeah, we just wanted to really kind of to celebrate him tonight and the success that he's got going on, you know, with everything there. And lastly, this is a great point to kind of think about where we are as a community and what we need to look at, you know, as a whole. You want to share that one?
It says sometimes the journey is about unlearning, becoming, breaking toxic traits, and learning to let go of all the things that aren't serving your growth.
That kind of sums up everything you said tonight.
It's called maturity.
It is.
Well, we don't have that in the White House.
Well, you know, we have to individualize those statements, you know, and see what we're going to do as human beings, you know, in that. So now we're going to leave this on the laugh note. So we're going to celebrate real quick as we're closing the show. We're not going to get into deep conversation about this, but we're going to close the show with the celebrated person in Congress because he got a bill passed.
Who is it? Oh, Lord. Breaking the gay dating app, Grindr says that Florida doesn't stop passing homophobic and transphobic laws that revealed every Republican legislator and party official who secretly used the app.
Okay, so we're going to leave that one right there for you guys for tonight. We're going to let you marinate on that, and we will come back with that on a future show. It is brewing. It is out there, and I think they're gonna let it out. They're gonna let the cat out the bag.
Oh,
you
they
know?
do. I mean,
you know,
they letting out everybody from Tyler Perry to his vice president, the pub that they might well just out him too. I mean, just out everybody. Everybody doing some secretized gay shit, and it's not good on the LG. You know what? This is really what pisses me off about this whole situation. I understand that people have, you know, their stuff behind closed doors, but my goodness, really? Why don't you just come out and be real about yours and stop hiding in closets?
That's too hard.
I know the money don't align if you come out as gay anymore, right? You got that right. That's what I'm talking about, Miss Alvin. I'm tired of these people always behind closed doors exploiting through homosexual actions. Why don't you just come out as gay so we can just stop
It's
this
a
nonsense?
popular conversation. It's popular in the church. It's
tired
popular
of
in the
it.
hood.
I'm tired
It's popular
of
at the bar. It's popular at the people
it's-
standing on the corner.
And what it does to this day,
Uh-huh.
it's still for those who believe that it's immoral to be it.
Uh-huh.
With that type of scenario of what it does behind closed door, it spreads the propaganda that you see. You see how they do?
Yeah.
You see what they're doing to our children and to our communities behind closed doors. And then you got to go and you got to defend your
You
manhood.
see what they're doing with our
And
children
in
behind the
politics,
closed doors?
you got to.
See
It's
what they're
like Joffrey said. You got to defend your manhood in this entertainment industry because you got a bunch of folks that want to steal your black manhood. And I'm like this. Nobody wants to steal anything.
Right.
It's if you make that choice of letting them take it. See, you're the one that's got to bend over.
Okay.
Listen,
Okay.
this is the truth behind the truth.
Okay.
You made
Okay.
the choice to bend over for a contract. Nobody has to take what you got. You can either stay and take it, or you can walk out the door, one or the other. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that another grown person bent you over, like what did Janet Jackson say? How can you let another grown man bend you over?
Okay. All right. Okay.
Listen,
Okay.
I'm just
All
saying,
right. All
truth
right.
behind the
It's
truth,
true.
right?
Okay. You said it.
Truth
Okay. All
behind the
right.
truth.
All right.
Truth behind the truth.
Okay.
Let's be real about it.
Okay. All
Let's
right.
be real about it.
Yeah.
You can't let nobody take what you got.
That's true.
Yeah.
You
All
gotta
right.
submit.
Amen. Amen to that.
All right. So once again, been a very fulfilling evening
That's
of
right.
information and knowledge. And we're glad that we're able to pass it on to you week by week by week by week. All right. Share this show. Share this show. Share the likes. The show actually has a lot of very powerful points, a lot of affirmational information that's there been said tonight. All right. If you came in late and catching it late, just stay around a few minutes. It'll replay itself again, or you can catch it on Saturday night at 6 p.m. All right. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the Truth Behind the Truth. And we will see you next week right here at the time, 6:30 on Tuesday night for our live broadcast of sharing more of what's going on in this world. All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.